Ready to get started?
Yes, sir.
You're ready. We'll get started with our budget and tax rate hearing.
Awesome. Okay, so welcome to tonight's 25-26 budget and tax rate hearing. We are halfway through the statutory budget cycle. Although there's more to do, the majority of work has already been completed. We're going to begin tonight with the bond debt structure for the August bond sale, review property taxes, and the final attendance and enrollment for the prior year. We will then move into the budget parameters for the upcoming year, followed by the final proposed budget that will be brought to you later tonight for board approval. There was a lot of good discussion at our 5th budget workshop on June 5th. At that meeting, we discussed legislation that was signed into law by Governor Abbott, structuring our August bond sale, and disaster pennies. When we left this workshop, I was asked to prepare a budget based on 6 and 9 disaster pennies while still allowing us to decrease the total tax rate. Just a few days later, on June 12th, school districts received guidance from TEA that changed how we would be able to structure the bond sale and the ability to adopt those same 6 or 9 disaster pennies. The presentation and recorded discussion can be found on the Business Office website, so I would like to revisit the potential debt structure only at a high level here tonight. This slide shows an example of how the August bond sale would affect our INS tax rate. It is very similar to the one shown on June 5th with a few key differences. On June 12th, TEA advised all districts to assume the $140,000 homestead exemption will be passed by voters in November. This would decrease our total taxable values. In turn, this prevents our M&O tax rate from compressing the 2.6 cents we had anticipated. Instead of a total tax rate of just under $1.04, we are projecting to land at a decreased total tax rate of 1.0637, which is 1 penny less than this year. Due to the timing of the bond sale, our financial advisors can lower the first payment for the February 2026 payment that would allow the district to adopt disaster pennies without increasing the tax rate. In the last column, you can see the total tax rate of 1.0637 is maintained. These disaster pennies can help us mitigate the cost from Hurricane Beryl in the last calendar year. Here I'm showing the potential effect of INS, M&O, and the total tax rates as a result of structuring that first bond payment from the 2024 bond sale in August. As the M&O tax rate will not compress, we would not be able to adopt 9 or 12 disaster pennies without increasing the total tax rate, which is something none of us want to do. 6 disaster pennies would lead us to a very small payment, first payment in August, which would likely be unfavorable to the district. However, I wanted to show how much revenue would be generated by adopting anywhere from no disaster pennies to all 12. I've also shown the increased revenue the district would receive separately from either state aid or from local tax revenue. With increased legislation, which includes the teacher retention allotment, the district would receive an additional $2.2 million from adopting no additional pennies, but $4.1 million by adopting the 3 golden pennies. Not only would the burden be on the state due to the golden penny yield, but the total amount collected from our local taxpayer would decrease in total due to the homestead exemption. Adopting 6 pennies only brings in an additional $220,000 in total revenues from the 3 golden pennies. After all of these updates, I've prepared our budget tonight with a 3 disaster penny scenario. The budget that will be adopted tonight and the tax rate will be adopted in either the September or October board meeting, depending on when we receive final certified values. And I'd like to go ahead and add, which I failed to say earlier, if you have any questions about any of my slides, please stop me at any time. Most of the remaining slides can be found in the budget hearing packet that I prepared for you, but they may be presented in a different order. So let's take a deeper look at our taxable values and the revenue generated for the district's general fund and debt service fund. These can be found in section 4 of the handout if you're following there. As a recap, the last 10 years of tax rate history is shown and is broken down between M&O and INS tax rates. As a result of the 2023 voter-approved bond, the INS rate increased a little less than the 12 cents that was communicated to the community. Our M&O tax rate increased by 1 disaster penny as a result of recurring storms that continued increasing our insurance rates. This disaster penny only lasts for 1 year and will be returning to the taxpayer for the upcoming budget cycle. The notice of public meeting to discuss the budget and proposed tax rate was published in the paper on June 13th, the details of which were sent to the newspaper based on the current statute of a $100,000 homestead exemption and prior to the June 12th guidance that we received. Based on the new guidance, I anticipate the M&O tax rate to be 0.6969 and the INS tax rate to be 0.3668. This would require us to republish a revised notice prior to adopting the tax rate due to the INS rate being a few cents higher. The Harris Central Appraisal District, or HCAD, sent our 2025 certified estimates on April 30th to Goose Creek ISD, our tax assessor collector. Assuming a $100,000 homestead exemption, they estimate that the 2025 taxable values to be $2.2 billion. This $2.2 billion increase is 7.05% from the 2024 taxable values. We were advised that this could change plus or minus 5%, assuming the $100,000 homestead exemption. Now that we have been instructed to use the $140,000 homestead exemption, the taxable values will certainly decrease. Still assuming the $100,000, the majority of the percent change to property was due to new developed property. When you review the average taxable value of residences, these actually only increased by 1.2%. This will be even less once the additional $40,000 exemption is applied. In comparing our taxable values over the last 10 years, I applied the estimated reduction to taxable values based on the increased exemption. This will actually lead to a decrease of 4.6% in taxable values from 2024 certified values. This decrease in property growth prevents our M&O tax rate from compressing any further this upcoming year. So in preparing our INS tax rate, we first began by tying together everything that we've already discussed. First, we look at our debt payments due for the upcoming year. I've included the estimated payment for the August sale, which brings us to approximately $8.1 million of required debt service for 2025-2026. This is slightly lower than this current year at $8.9 million. After taking into account the additional state aid for homestead exemption, interest earnings, and delinquent collections, I anticipate the district will need to collect approximately $6.7 million. If 100% of taxable property values are collected timely, the district would need an INS rate of 34.73. Since we only collect around 95% of our taxable values each year, a 36.68 cents would be more appropriate, which would prevent us from dipping into fund balance any further on debt service. Now that we have our preliminary M&O and INS tax rate, I can now present this alongside the 10 years of tax rate history. The total tax rate is anticipated to be 1 cent less than last year, even though it includes a second bond sale and includes 3 disaster pennies. Before we move on, I want to show how this tax rate will affect our average taxpayer, or average household. In this example, I have again used the average market and taxable values in 2024 and 2025 as provided by HCAD. Since the total tax rate is anticipated to decrease by 1 penny, the total effect to the average household would be an additional $5 per year. However, they have not provided us yet with what the average taxable value of each residence is with the $140,000 homestead exemption. An additional $40,000 in the homestead exemption would reduce that further and save taxpayers an additional $425 a year. Are there any questions on the property taxes? Okay. So now let's move on to attendance and enrollment, which is found in section 2 of your handout. Our average daily attendance is important as it reduces the amount of state aid that we receive. The higher the ADA, the higher the percentage of the basic allotment that we receive. Our attendance rate have increased slightly over the past few years, and for 24-25 ended at 93.85%. We report our enrollment to TEA as well based on the last Friday in October. This is called our fall snapshot. In 2023-2024, our snapshot data had decreased, but then it decreased again in 2024-2025. Although there continued to be a dip from October 2023 to May 2024, based on the year-end enrollment, we began picking up students in 2024-2025 and actually ended the year with 27 more students than the same time last year. The number of students who begin with us in the upcoming year will be critical in projecting our continuing budgetary and staffing needs. So we will be watching that closely. This chart shows our actuals from snapshot and year-end compared with the PASA 2024 low growth model. It projects that we will have 3,854 students next year, but this still seems a little high as we are still early in surrounding housing development. For this reason, I budgeted the upcoming year based on 2024-2025 enrollment in ADA. The budget parameters and final budget may be found in section 1 of your handout. So to develop the expenditure budget, we must first begin with our estimated revenues. The only changes that I have made based on from the amended 24-25 budget and the proposed 25-26 budget are due to the expected changes that we will see in taxable values and the change in weighted average daily attendance. You'll sometimes hear that referred to as WADA. This change is due to the way some of the formulas have changed in the funding due to legislation. So even with the same criteria, it changes that WADA number just a little bit. I estimate local revenues to decrease by approximately $420,000. This can be mostly attributed to the lower property tax collections anticipated in the amount of $540,000 and the increase of interest revenue in the amount of $100,000. When looking at our state revenue, I expect we will receive from the state due to the teacher retention allotment, support staff allotment, increased basic allotment from legislation, as well as the 3 disaster pennies. I anticipate our state revenue will increase by approximately $4.9 million. Federal revenues are expected to continue to decrease due to SHARS and Medicaid funding. I've also not included receiving any FEMA reimbursements at this time, as they are still some of these are still under review with the Texas Department of Emergency Management. In total, the general fund revenue budget will be approximately $3.9 million more than in 24-25. In total, the general fund's revenue is derived 70% from the state and 29% from local sources. So now what everyone has been waiting on, and it is our employee compensation that has been built into the 2025-2026 proposed budget. The compensation package was made possible by the hard work of our team, the board, and state legislation. All teachers will move up a pay step to maintain pay equity, and we will increase our teacher hiring scale from $59,000 to $60,700. Teachers with 3 to 4 years of creditable experience will receive an additional $4,000. Teachers with 5 years or more of creditable experience will receive an $8,000 increase. All other staff will receive an increase of 3% of the midpoint, along with some other adjustments that may have come from the TASB salary study. The budget continues to include the longevity stipend and increases the daily substitute rate by $5 per day. Lastly, the district currently contributes $225 per month to all employees who take the health insurance. We are recommending an increase to $250 per month for all employees. I did look, and currently we spend about 46.5% of all employees do take our insurance. So what does this look like on the new teacher hiring schedule? Here's a snapshot of what a new teacher hiring schedule will look like as compared to the prior year. And you'll see that a brand new teacher coming in at 0 years instead of the 59,000 will make the 61,700. As the years of experience increase, so does the percent change that we are seeing. And again, that's all made possible by HB2, which was recently passed and signed by Governor Abbott. But this is what it will look like for a returning teacher. So in the last illustration, it showed what a beginning teacher with no experience, what that would look like and how that would raise for them. But our returning teachers will actually move up a step. So a teacher who made $59,000 last year will actually make $61,000 next year, representing an increase of 3.4%. Additionally, the following items have been taken into account when proposing the budget: the increased homestead exemption, projected taxable values, disaster pennies, and the bond sale. It also includes the repayment of the second tax note and the possibility of the final tax note in the upcoming year. So now that we have all of this information, let's put it all together in a proposed budget. And I'm sorry for those who cannot read that. There was a lot of information on that slide, but we will get this presentation posted very quickly for you. Shown here and on page 6 of your handout is the complete budget being recommended for adoption this year. We are looking at ending this year with a positive fund balance due to the inclusion of the maintenance tax note. The last maintenance tax note in a lower amount will bring us to a deficit budget in the general fund of approximately $2.5 million. Our food service budget is moving away from CEP this year. Staff have worked hard to develop this budget and get it in line with the revenue anticipated from paid breakfast and lunch in the upcoming year. And currently a deficit budget of $94,000 is expected. However, the fund balance is able to absorb this in the food service fund. Lastly, our debt service fund budget is recommended based on the preliminary information we have to date. It is currently expected to end in a small surplus of $19,000. Our general fund expenditures can be broken down as follows. 56% and 12% of the expenditures are due to instructional and instructional support budgets, respectively. 21% of our budget is being spent on district operations, 7% on debt service, and 4% from central administration. Looking at it in a different way, I've broken it down by the type of expenditure that we could see from from the general fund and as a percentage of expenditures. The largest of this is our salaries. The payroll budget as a percentage of our total expenditures is 70.8%. One thing that I want everyone to keep in mind, though, is with a balanced budget, you would expect your expenditures to be even with your revenues. So as a percent of revenues, our payroll budget is actually going to be approximately 84%. Because you would hope that they would match, and since they don't right now, that's two different ways to look at it. So it's 78% of the expenditures, but it's 84% of what we would hope our expenditures to be. So I wanted to be sure and give that to you both ways. So our next steps, July 25th is the deadline for the chief appraiser to provide the certified appraisal roll to the district's tax assessor. We generally get a certified estimate at that time. We don't usually get our certified values until August, the end of August. But on August the 5th is the deadline for TEA to calculate our MCR. They pretty much already told us what it's going to be by telling us to take into account that $140,000 homestead exemption, but on August 5th, that number will become official. And September 30th is the deadline for the tax rate to be adopted. Well, it's either September 30th or 60 days after receiving the certified appraisal roll, and that is why sometimes we are able to adopt in October as well. So we will continue to post the presentation slides on the district website under the business department's site. We will also include a copy of the budget handbook that was separately provided for the board. If anyone would like a copy of this document, it will certainly be posted by the end of this week. And finally, are there any questions?
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
I want to make sure I'm looking at the hiring schedule and the salaries right.
Okay.
So because we changed the starting amounts of each, flip into it, there you go. So that's the returning teacher. So because we changed that, well, first of all, I think that we were all in favor of doing that 0, 1, and 2, that was left out by the state, giving them a bump, and I'm glad that was put in here. So do we know what the average percentage is?
I do not. It's going to be pretty large because when you look here at the percent change for the new teacher hiring schedule, once you hit 5 years, we're looking at anywhere between 11 and 13%. So when you're looking at the teacher increase percentages, in total, the average is going to be pretty high.
You have the state required, and then we also changed those steps, so that's why it's okay. I'm just making sure. I didn't know if we knew. I guess it depends on how many teachers of what years we have, where the average will fall.
I can bring that back to you.
But we do know there's a lot of our teachers that are in the 8,000, a lot of happy teachers.
Yeah.
I can tell you that we are looking at bringing in about $1.5 million from the state in the teacher retention allotment and the support staff allotment. And of that, the support staff allotment is only about a little over 100,000. The majority of that is for the teacher retention allotment. So that's 1.5 million of the 2.2.
And has the state committed to continuously fund that?
Yes, sir. They have said that it is a permanent raise and will be continued every year. They also said that for districts, and I think this is important for us to know, districts that are receiving the higher allotment because they have less than 5,000 students, once they cross that threshold, they will still continue to fund it at the 4 and the 8. Now, what they did not say is if that will continue for the ones that were already existing, but I don't know how they would even separate those. But they were very clear in that.
I also like, we've got to fund the 3% for all those other employees, so the state hadn't fully funded all those raises.
Right.
So we gotta come up with that.
Right.
And, it's, I would like to say thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
I know it's been a hard time because, I mean, switching formulas and having to do this in 2 or 3 days, I know you haven't slept. And I know.
I'm on vacation next week.
I would like to tell you, I appreciate all the hard work you put in.
Yes, sir.
We figured on one thing and then it got down to the end and then we're, you know, it was just hard on you. I know that.
Well, I appreciate that, but it was fine. It was good, and I'm very excited about what we were able to do. In total, the compensation package is about $2.5 million of our increased expenditures. So while the state is picking up $1.5 million of that, well, it's actually closer to 2.2, 2.3 million. But so while the state's picking up $1.5 million of that, the district is funding the remaining portion of that. And after not being able to give a raise last year, I'm really excited about it. No, it was not.
Well, I think that, you know, we learn and we keep moving forward and we stay diligent and we constantly keep looking. And then they'll throw you another curveball and we'll start over.
I'm used to it now, right? It's great.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Here. All right, we'll take about a 5-minute break and then we'll get started with the regular board meeting.